Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. Actually, it's Thursday's edition, so if you believe me in that it's Friday, you've got a problem, and I've screwed up your entire work schedule and calendar. This is Thursday's edition. I'm Paul Dottino. He is Jonathan Casillas. So glad you could join us. We'll be here for the next hour to talk Giants football, maybe a few NFL notes if something should tweak your fancy. Our number is 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. You can also get us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. I'm at GiantsWFEN. He is at JCasillas52. Mm-hmm. And so don't be shy. Don't be bashful. We'd rather you call us, but you could always get us up on Twitter anyway. And don't forget that an archive of this show and our entire podcast network will be available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at Giants.com/podcast. Jonathan, I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to be with you again, and the Giants have been busy.
Yeah, they have. Yep. Well, I walked in the building today, and I saw all the guys visiting. Kind of got some false
you know what's
notions
funny?
There with the guys' pictures up there. I was like, hold on, did we just sign 4 players today?
You know what's funny about it? This team is a year ahead of schedule. Okay.
Yeah.
We really thought that it would be 2 years before they started to make the kinds of tweaks that could make them a potential division contender. But because they made the playoffs in the first year and things went so well, they've now accelerated that. And this year is the year they're going to try to make tweaks to get to the next level. I think it's interesting. We've already seen a handful of veteran free agents, and not necessarily big-name, big-time guys, come into this building and sign deals because the Giants are suddenly a destination again.
Oh, yeah.
Explain that to me from a player's perspective. What goes through your mind when you're a veteran free agent and you're shopping for a team? Obviously, you're looking for comfort zone. You're looking for coaches you know, players you know, systems you know. But you're also looking for a place where you think they can win.
Yeah. I think for me, that was like when I was a free agent, for me, it was winning was a high priority. And also, can I fit into their system? You know, can I fit into their defensive scheme? And then also, are there guys, playmakers around me, you know? And the Giants, you know, they check those boxes. You know, I think from what they did last year in terms of the regular season play, and of course winning their first playoff game in a very long time. I think it was 10 years since the Giants last won a playoff game. And then also the re-signing of Daniel Jones, the re-signing, or I guess the franchise tagging of Saquon Barkley. Hopefully they can figure that situation out, because I think they're going to be able to work out a long-term deal with him.
I do too.
Now that the Giants have the leverage. You know, and then also signing one of the best tight ends in the league. Now guys are looking at this place like, man, the Giants, they're doing something over there. They're playing in a very strong division in the NFC East. The colors of the uniform look really nice. The ownership is par none. You know, the ownership is fantastic.
The team has great announcers, by the way.
Yeah, right. My man. No, but on some real stuff, it's always been a flagship organization. But the wins always haven't been there. You know, the playoff wins haven't always been there. You know, you had a stellar quarterback in Eli Manning. You had one of the Manning brothers as a quarterback for 17 years, I believe that was the number of years he played.
14, I think it was.
No,
was
it was longer than that. I think it was at least 16. I might be adding one, right?
I can't remember.
Pearson,
now.
Can you check that for us? Because I want to definitely know. You should know this, man.
I know.
You know numbers. I'm a guesser. I'm like, it's something around 16, 17.
It might have been 16.
But this is a flagship.
Check it out, Pearson.
Flagship organization that proved they have fight in them. They proved that they have the right GM and the right head coach. And Joe Schoen, I think he's going out there and doing a masterful job this offseason. There has been some subtractions that kind of left me scratching my head, but the additions have been nothing but great.
16.
Okay, 16.
Yep.
See, it took me a minute, but I got back to it. Let me ask you this, okay? During the last month or so, there was I want to say it was an informal Players Association survey that came out. You may or may not be familiar with it, where they asked players to grade the level of comfort that they had with each of their organizations. And when the survey came out and all the results came out, the Giants were, I want to say, Pearson, do you remember the survey? Were the Giants the 8th overall most desired team to play for in the NFL? And one of the categories was medical staff, and they came out number 1.
Oh, yeah. Ronnie
in their
Barnes?
medical staff.
Absolutely.
So do you think that those kinds of things, those intangible things, play into decisions maybe a little bit more than we think, because everyone just automatically thinks, show me the money. People are going to go where the dollars are.
Yeah, but I think a smart veteran guy that, you have to factor in, your do's and your don'ts and your pros and your cons, and then there's also, the cost, do I go here? Do I go elsewhere? So I feel like you have to weigh in all of those things as an experienced player. Some younger guys may not truly understand how that works, and maybe they're literally looking at the colors of the uniforms and how much dollars, dollar signs, So I think as a player gets older and, a guy has a family, he's taking care of his family, his businesses, and, he's married and, he's a veteran and he understands how the world works, not just how the NFL works, but how the world works, You have some opportunity cost that happens whenever you make a decision. And you have to weigh that against, other things that you could possibly go to. So, I think as you get older, you get more experience and you start understanding that the training staff is very important. The guys in the sports conditioning room and the weight room, they're very important, and that all matters, the type of turf that you're going to play on. All of that stuff starts to get factored in, but guys with little to no experience that don't truly understand how to weigh options in life in general. Not just talking about the NFL and life in general. When I was young in the league, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about taxes. I didn't know about, real estate. I didn't know about anything. I didn't know about the cost of living. I was young and dumb and, whoever paid me for sure. And I went through my agent in terms of when I was coming out the draft because I was undrafted. The great thing about being undrafted is that you get to pick your place.
Right.
And I only had a couple of buyers, I only had a couple of lookers, but I was able to pick a place. And
it worked out.
And it did work out. First year I won a Super Bowl. I wasn't drafted. I probably lost $1 million not being drafted because I was supposed to be a high draft pick. But I was able to pick. And I used my agent. I relied on him to kind of give me, the pros and cons about the couple teams that I had, available for me. And I ended up choosing the New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees and John Vilma and all of those guys, those veteran leaders. I was so grateful to go into that building as a young, dumb kid from Jersey City. Nothing against Jersey, but that was me. I was young and dumb. Like, I was making mistakes in college. I had a DUI. Like, I was getting in trouble. Like, I was doing those type of things. I'm talking about me personally, nothing else crazy, but I'm just telling you guys where I'm from, and then I got into the New Orleans, franchise, and I was able to surround myself with some great leaders, some great men, being, like I said, Vilma, Drew Brees, Will Smith, rest in peace, Charles Grant, Roman Harper. Like, these are my brothers still to this day. Reggie Bush, like, these guys looked at me as like, oh, this kid, like, he'll go into the alleyway with me and fight because I was that type of guy,
right.
And I was able to learn from these guys. So the thing with Daboll and Schoen has done this last year, what I think we can't argue is that he established culture here. So not only is it a sexy place to go, they have established culture now. And I don't think that has existed since Tom Coughlin was here in 2015.
And players talk. Let's make that very, very clear. Players around the league will
They recruit now,
talk.
too. And they recruit now, actively.
All right. So, a couple of things that you mentioned in what you were just talking about, the factors. They are changing the turf out at MetLife Stadium to a different blend of artificial turf.
Not grass, though, right?
It's still not going to be real grass.
Okay. That's
but it's going to be a
We'll
different
see.
kind of artificial turf that the Players Association has deemed to be safer. So that is one thing that is being done in regards to the complaints that people have had about the turf here that the Giants and Jets have been playing on. The one thing they can't change when free agents come here is the income tax. Because unfortunately, there are a bunch of states, and you know what? I'm going to call time out here. Folks, I love the league, and I'm always trying to help the league. And you know this. I've got so many ideas that would help the National Football League. They don't listen to me. I get it. I'm just a little peon. But I got a lot of great ideas. One of my ideas is to even out the salary cap so that you have income tax states and non-income tax states, and you need to be able to make an adjustment for that. Because there are players who will definitely pay attention to that when they're on their recruiting trips, will they not?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, if you're signing a $30 million signing bonus, if you go to New Jersey, you got to pay that tax. You go to Florida, you ain't paying no tax on that $30 million, fam.
And there are something like 40% of the states in the United States that don't have it. So all of
income
those
tax.
Teams,
Sorry, you're not paying the income tax.
Right,
Sorry,
that don't have the income
not
tax.
tax at all. You got to pay taxes.
The income tax,
right,
the state income tax, which is just another penalty to all of those other teams. And they've got to overcome that when they're negotiating with a free agent. I don't understand. Fellas, what is so fair about this?
Right.
The National Football League is always talking about fairness, revenue sharing, and all of the other things, competitive balance. Where's the competitive balance in free agency when state income taxes warp the ability to sign free agents?
Yep.
Explain that to me.
Yep. Because, I mean, like we said, that $30 million mark in Jersey will be actually $35 million in Texas or Florida.
Whatever it is, depending upon the state.
That's a lot of money now. It's a lot of money.
And it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge difference, yeah.
How does the league not fix this?
It's not talked about a lot either, Paul. Like, honestly, I haven't really heard that come up in too many, and I try to pay attention to people right now that are actively talking about drafts and people, not drafts, but your free agency and then the draft and, what places do people want to go and where DeAndre Hopkins going to land, the talks that are currently going on right now, and not too many people are talking about state income tax.
And this happens to every one of these free agents when they make their little parade around the NFL. That's one of the factors they will think about. And there's just nothing you can do if you're in one of those states except to say, well, I'm really sorry about it, and maybe we can bump our offer a little bit. But ultimately, it does cost some teams the ability to get some players. And how is that fair to competitive balance? NFL, you got to do something about that. All right. Giants Huddle Podcast is one of our programs here on Giants.com. Make sure you subscribe. It features interviews with Giants players and coaches and insight from the best reporters covering the NFL, as well as, again, executives, coaches, former players, you name it. We fill it up with a whole big guest list. You can search for the Giants Huddle on your favorite podcast platforms or listen to the Giants app and at Giants.com/podcasts. Also, we should remind you that this is your chance to take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected with the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn all about the exclusive membership benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. And finally, our last PSA of the program, and then we'll get to your calls at 201-939-4513. The Giants official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Pearson, let's fire up the phones. I know these fans want to talk. And this is Big Blue Kickoff Live. Paul Dottino with Jonathan Casillas. Jerome from Charlotte, you are first on the program. Hello.
Hi, guys. Love the show.
Thank you.
Listen to you sometimes twice a day.
There you go.
I'm a truck driver, so.
Do you have a bottle of aspirin just in case? Because by the second hour, I think you're going to have a massive headache.
Well, sometimes, if Barkley don't come in and sign that extension, I might need a few pills.
Well, he's still going to play this year. If he don't sign an extension or not, he's still going to play underneath that tag. He's going to do it.
He's here. The leverage is one-sided.
One comment about that is he talk about the love for the team, and a lot of players do, but I know it come down to, the big money. But he's been struggling so much and so long with us, and now we're starting to look better. Now he want to, feel like he's changing his mind.
Nah, look, bro, at the end of the day, every single player, every man in the world, we want security, bro, especially when it comes to playing in the NFL, which stands for not for long. And Saquon does have an injury history. We're not the only ones that know that. He understands that too. You can't blame him for wanting security, bro, especially when he looks at McCaffrey and other guys making $15, $16 million a year when he probably feels like he's better than those guys. So don't take anything away from it. The kid's going to play for New York this year. Hopefully he can get a deal done. Hopefully they can get a deal done because that'll help the Giants out. And that'll definitely help him out, too, because that'll give him the security that he wants.
If security's his number one issue, well, then he should sign a deal and not play for the one-year tag because the Giants could always tag him again next year.
Right.
So, to be frank,
he needs to get that deal done.
I just don't know where his options are because it's pretty.
Well, as of right now, because of the franchise tag,
it's pretty concrete.
The leverage is all in the New York Giants' hands, and not to cut you off, bro, but you made an interesting point. But Saquon, if they didn't get the deal done with Daniel Jones, Saquon would probably have left. because they would have probably had to franchise Daniel Jones. And then Saquon would have probably left because he wants more money than the Giants are offering him. They already offered him twice, if I'm not mistaken, once during the season. And I know they've been playing with numbers this offseason, and he didn't like none of the numbers.
Well, that's why we knew from the very beginning that Daniel Jones had to be the first domino to fall.
Absolutely.
For the Giants to effectively execute an offseason game plan, Jones had to get signed.
That was it. Yep.
And it happened.
They did it. Yep.
So anyway, and partially because Daniel Jones wanted it to happen.
Right.
He was very adamant about that.
Right.
And we've heard, and I know the timing and the machinations, a lot of that stuff is gamesmanship. He wanted it to happen, and it happened. Go ahead.
Okay. My main concern is I read on Giant Wire, I think it was, that we have 10 still unsigned free agents, and one of them is Landon Collins, which I'm really rooting for to get back with the team. I just want to know, like for him, what's his chances, and then some of the other ones you think they might also sign back with the team. And I'll take that off the air. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Some thoughts on what Collins did for this team last year. I know he's a fan favorite.
Yep.
He's a team favorite. He does want to come back. I'm not sure there's going to be room for him. I would love it to happen. I just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think right now, because you let Julian Love leave, I think for me personally, I have a bias towards Landon. We played together. Thought he was one of the better safeties that I've ever seen play the game. I want him to get that spot. I would like for the Giants to figure out something with him. He would definitely have to take a team-friendly deal. And Landon made some money already in this league. Washington gave him a lot of money when he went over there. So hopefully he's not looking for that ultimate bag. Definitely want security. Like I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. We all want security. Because if you play in this NFL, you understand that you have an injury and your career could be over. And luckily some guys come back, some guys don't. But everybody wants security. So if the Giants and Landon Collins can, I feel like, work out a deal, he wants to be here. He loves it. He was living up the street from my house, a couple doors down. And I seen him the first day he was here, and I talked to him. He was like, "Man, it's good to be back." And he wants to play, and I think you saw that by his play this past year. He had one of the better plays I've seen any defensive back make for the Giants all year with that play on the sideline against Hockenson. That was a tremendous play, and the thing is, people always talk about Landon Collins' coverage abilities. I don't think they're that bad comparably to, other guys on this roster. But his run presence at that safety position, I'm not talking about that linebacker. I'm talking about at that safety position. He reads angles very well. He plays the alley very well. Probably one of the better tackling safeties in the league. You put him at linebacker, that kind of takes his value down a little bit. But I think at safety, for the things that Julian Love did, I think Landon Collins can definitely do that.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, and the Giants just were able to ink the deal with Bobby McCain, the former Washington commander. He had his news conference earlier today, and he told us that he was brought in here to compete at safety. He has played outside corner, slot corner, strong safety, and free safety during the course of his career. Those, at least 3 of those spots, whether it was slot, although Landon didn't play slot last year, but he certainly played the pseudo linebacker role, and either of the 2 safeties, he was capable of doing that his whole career. That's another veteran now in front of him. I just don't know if he's coming back.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm with you. And that's the thing.
McCain's younger.
No, I hear you, because Landon's going into his 9th year
and has a list of injuries that he's had to overcome.
Yep, 100%.
Now again,
and he'll be and Landon's not cheap either. You got to give him some money.
And he showed fresh legs when he got to the Giants last year, but again, he didn't go through the whole rigors of a training camp and a full season.
Yep.
Look, I'm as big a Landon Collins fan as anybody, and I'd love to see him back. I just don't know if there's room with what they're trying to do here.
We talked about, I don't know if we talked about this, but I know Sterling, we talked about him, and people were like, I don't think they're going to be able to fit him in the building. But I thought that was a great signing. Number one, they did it for a cheap price, right? They did it for a bargain deal, I think, for signing this guy, even though he's been hurt a lot.
Well, it's a non-guaranteed deal.
Right.
So all that contract does for Sterling Shepard, he gets a chance to come to camp and make the team.
Right.
That's all it is.
Which is awesome, because at the end of the day, you get a great locker room guy. Sterling was hurt for a lot of the season last year.
Played 3 games.
He was on every video you saw of the Giants.
He sure was.
And the game
Did you see the mic'd up highlights they have on Giants.com
yes, absolutely.
of him?
But he evolved to being a number 1 cheerleader for his team throughout the year. And look, when I went out with them the night they beat the Colts to secure the playoff spot. That's when they bought out the spot in New York.
Yes.
Shep was the leader. He was DJing the whole night. Like, like he had everybody fed off his energy. You got to have a guy like that on your team. Even though he didn't play last year a lot because he got hurt, he's that guy for the New York Giants. He's one of the veterans on the team. He has one of the most experienced players on the entire roster. He has a lot of experience. He's overcame so much. He's a lot more mature now. He's a dad 2 times over now. They got 2 daughters. He's a veteran guy, and I put him in a similar category as Landon. Landon is not the more talkative type of guy, but he's that type of leader. He's that type of mature player that has seen a lot of different things and that can help some of these younger guys coming in. That's why I kind of put them, and if they can figure out a way to make it make sense like they did with Sterling, that's what I'm saying, because you need veteran leadership on a team. You can't just show up and have a deep run during a season or during the playoffs with a young team, not without great leaders. And they don't have to be great players. They just got to be great leaders.
Let me ask you this then. Now, I'm not poo-pooing the fact that I'd like to see him back, because I would. And I think there's still a chance. It could happen later on in the summer. Could happen during training camp. You never know. But with an intangibles guy like Landon Collins, who brings a lot to the locker room and a lot of the atmosphere and attitude that a winner brings, isn't there more value to have him here sooner rather than later?
Right. To have him here now.
So if he's not here now, that kind of tells me he's probably not going to be here.
Yeah, I hear you. Yep. But see, for me, I would like to throw logic at all of this. I just don't understand this whole process enough to do that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I throw logic at football stuff because I understand that very well. For me to try to throw logic into this, I don't really truly understand it enough. Because Joe Schoen, signing Waller, who thought that was going to happen?
Well, that trade came out of nowhere. I hadn't seen anybody whisper that the Giants were in the market to make a deal like that.
Waller wanted out or something like that, or the Raiders wanted to get rid of him. None of that was talked. So for me, it's it's all like a guess, and I like to speculate. I like your speculation, because you've been in the game so long that when you make a speculation, I'll be like, man, I never thought of that, but man, that would be amazing.
Do you notice after we talked about that, all of a sudden the fires for that player got stoked?
And I'm like, man, I heard that from somebody, but he told me not to say anything.
Yeah, well.
I wanted to be the first one to drop it because you was scared to say it. I wanted to do it.
And to this point, he hasn't gone anywhere.
Right. But look, I think right now the Giants are doing really good. I would like to talk about the subtractions that the Giants they lost some guys. Julian Love being a guy that I feel like, the Giants should have probably signed, because he was such a glue guy for the Giants defensively. And then when Xavier McKinney went down, he was a guy that stepped up big time. And I think he played very well this year. There's one play I could remember against, I think, the Eagles, the trying to catch the interception.
He took a bad angle.
But besides that play, the guy played lights out all year. He's a fan favorite.
All right, before you move to your next guy, Belton and Pinnock, 2 young safeties who flashed and both have some talent and upside and are a lot cheaper, are still on this roster.
Yep. And Dane Belton, 2 interceptions last year. One huge interception, I know, at the end of one of those games.
Fumble recovery on his first play.
Right, to end the game. So he's a guy that be around the ball, tough guy from I know he went to Iowa.
Yeah.
But so he's a Big Ten guy,
Yeah,
I like the Big Ten guys.
Between you and Tide Roll Cross, we've got enough college rooters in this program to last a lifetime.
Hey, it is what it is,
It's okay.
But yeah, so I like the way he plays, but look, at the end of the day, at the defensive back room, including the safeties and the corners, you got to have a lot of guys in those rooms. You got to have a lot of guys. You don't need 2 or 3. You need 4, 5 guys, because you need guys to play special teams. And I'm not talking about a guy that would never, ever play safety to play special teams. I'm talking about a guy that's very capable of playing safety that plays special teams. So one of these guys go down, knock on wood, hopefully nobody goes down. But last year, Xavier McKinney missed a lot of games, because he, broke his, hand in half. on the accident. And there was other guys that had to step up. Dane Belton being one of them, Cordell Flott being one of them. Julian Love basically had to take over for Xavier McKinney. So you need guys. You need rotation. One of the things that I talked about, number one was sign Daniel Jones. Number two was to provide depth. That's what the Giants are doing. They're bringing a lot of guys. So I don't see like a situation where Landon Collins can't be here and all the other guys are here too. You know what I'm saying? I think that the Giants want him in the building. I think they need him in the building to help this young roster out. And they need depth. And I think Landon Collins provides that, and all the names that we named before, they provided that. Because at the end of the day, the Giants struggled consistently on special teams. Offensive and defensively, there were times where they looked amazing, offensively and defensively at times. There wasn't really too many times this year that special teams, they looked good at all. I'm not talking about amazing. I'm talking about good. That shows you don't have
to talk about this in the press box every Sunday.
You don't have a deep roster. Your roster is very top-heavy. And if your roster's top-heavy and your only good players are starters, that's an issue. Special teams is a third of the game. The Giants need quality players at every position, and that will help the special teams out. Nobody talks about special teams, Paul, but I played special teams for a long time. That's how I made my money early in my career.
You will not get any disrespect from me on that.
And I tell all the young guys that I be training and working with all the time, you're going to make your money on special teams. If you're a tweener guy, maybe you're not a high draft pick. Even if you're a high draft pick, if they got a guy playing your position in front of you, you better make your way on special teams. You got to become uncuttable. That's how I was. I was uncuttable. I never got cut, Paul. I was on the bottom of the roster. When I would go to new teams, I would be bottom of the depth chart. But after a few days, they'd be like, "Oh, we can't let go of this guy. He's too valuable on special teams." Right. And I was a starter for half of my career. But even if I wasn't starting, if I had something going on, I would still be a valuable commodity on special teams.
Other young guys at the safety spot, Terrell Burgess, the former Ram, is here, as well as Trenton Thompson. And now they just brought in a corner, Leonard Johnson, the former Duke player who tore up his ACL. And
he hasn't played yet.
Hadn't played in a year.
Right.
But now he's trying to make a comeback, and the Giants are taking a shot with him. So they've got a lot of young defensive backs as they try to get younger and faster, who they brought onto this roster. We will see how that all shakes out. Before we go to the next phone call, and again, folks, 201-939-4513, bear with me for 2 more minutes. I need to get Jonathan and I don't know if you've done this before, tell me about Bobby O, the linebacker the Giants got from the Colts, and Noches, the defensive lineman they got from Tampa Bay. 2 guys, or Nacho.
Yep.
They call him Nacho.
Yep.
Those 2 guys, understanding they needed to do better against the run, particularly between the tackles, these are 2 guys who should help plug that.
Yeah, what was interesting too? I came from PT just now. Jalen Smith was in there.
How's he doing?
Maintenance work. Man, he looks good. He's a lot bigger than I thought. I look a lot smaller than him next to him.
He's got some thickness.
I mean, he's active. I haven't played in 5 years.
Yeah.
But I looked at him. He walked in. I was like, sheesh. Look, the guy played decent. But I think the Giants addressed that need for middle linebacker. We got Beaver sitting in the, hopefully that he can respond off that ACL injury. But they saw a guy that when they played against the Indianapolis Colts that kind of was all over the field against the New York Giants. And they looked at him and was like, that's what we need. We need a guy that can go ahead, and if the team wants to run 35 times against us, then he's going to have 20 tackles.
I see Bobby Okereke as a more athletic version of Blake Martinez.
Well, I like that because Blake Martinez was a tackling machine. Very smart guy.
So's Okereke.
Cerebral. Definitely going to make a lot of plays, make a lot of checks. Okereke, I see it. He got his hands on a lot of footballs. He was able to disrupt the plays, and he was able to get turnovers. And I tell young guys all the time, if you want to make money in this league playing defense, you get your hands on them footballs. You get your hands on that football, you create turnovers. That's what you do. Okereke is that type of guy. If he wasn't paid so much money, because they gave him $22 million guaranteed, he would be a 4-down linebacker. You're not going to pay a guy $22 million guaranteed and have him on special teams. You ain't doing that.
No.
He's that guy.
He's a full-time.
He can play special teams because he's that type of athletic ability, and you can tell that's his mindset, that he'll go in and blow stuff up. He'll go in and sit back and make that play on the back end with the quarterback sitting in the pocket, and then he can be all over the field. And the guy doesn't have to come off the field at all. Not a big guy, but can run and he can hit. And that's what the Giants need. And the Giants need a leader at that position, not just a guy that's going to go in and just make tackles. You need a leader in the middle of your field. Xavier McKinney's a leader, but you need a leader that can get those talented defensive linemen lined up, smack them around a little bit, and get those guys going. A middle linebacker will help with the defensive line.
All right, give me really, really fast because I want to go to the calls, and I really like to go rapid fire in the next half hour. Nacho comes in. It's not even what he brings to the interior of that defensive line, but it's the fact that he can spell those other guys so that they can play more efficiently if you're giving them some time off, correct?
Well, again, we talk about depth. Quality players, not a guy that's going to be a big drop-off when you put him in. You know, Nacho, maybe he's not as good as Dexter Lawrence or Leonard Williams.
Doesn't have to be.
But he's a formidable force, and he's not going to have a big drop when they come out the game like we saw last year when both of those D tackles, or I guess the interior D linemen for defense, when they came out the game, there was a big drop-off. The Giants gave up a lot of rushing yards last year. Against one team, the Giants gave up 700 and something, 60-something rushing yards against the Philadelphia Eagles in 3 games.
And quite honestly, with the way that Lawrence and Williams at times were never even allowed to come off the field.
And that's not good.
You had to know that they would play in gas.
That's not good. D linemen, you got to have
That's been the last couple of years now, not just last year.
Defensive linemen that rotate in. No one on the defensive line should play over 90% of the snaps at any given time of any year. There's no way possible that should happen because you're going against the biggest, strongest guys that play football in those offensive linemen.
Guards are like 340 now.
They're beating you up. You know, they're hitting you in your ribs. You know what I mean? Like they're double teaming you, and like then you got to go pass rush. Now you got to go and turn on the Jets. So the Giants needed depth. I think Nacho provides that depth because at the end of the day, the Giants are led by their defensive line historically. That's not going to change. Daboll understands that, and that's why he signed Nacho, because he's not thinking of him, oh, he's going to come in here and start right away. No, you're going to be one of our options along that defensive line, which are the leaders of this Giants team, the defensive line. That's it.
All right. Folks, we went a little long with some of our conversation, but I hope you enjoyed it, and it was interesting stuff. I want to try to get to as many calls as we can in the next half hour. We're going to start with Coach Marvin on line 2. You're next up on BBKL. Hello.
How you doing, Paul?
Great, Coach. How are you?
I'm all right. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm good, Coach. Good to hear you, man. I remember when you called before, man. You had some great points.
Yeah, I try to call every now and then. I don't call every day. I just want to call when I have something to say. I just don't want to say anything crazy.
There you go.
But I caught on when y'all was talking about culture. Jonathan was saying something about the culture, and Brian Daboll them have bought in, and I agree with that's what's the difference in this team is the culture that they bought. Him and Joe Schoen. And they've done an outstanding job with this team. Paul known me for quite a few years now. I've never criticized coaches, and I may question a call that they made in a situation, but I never question their coaching abilities. These guys know exactly what they do. These are some of the smartest coaches in the world. I mean, there's only 32 teams, and head coaches, you only got 32 of them. And so they just don't give these jobs to anybody. But what I like about Brian is that I'm not going to say he's a player's coach. I think he's a head coach that just has good relationships with his players. And what I mean by it, because the change the culture, I think it goes back to that Tennessee game when they went for 2. And I think I told you this one time before, Paul, that when I was coaching, especially when I went to high school, the time I can win my players over is when I can tell them what's going to happen in a game and put them in the position to make that happen. And when it happens, you win them over.
Belief.
And I think, and going for the 2, I think he won that team over. And also I love the way Daniel Jones had made a turnover in that game through an interception in the red zone. And he did something that I've been praying for coaches to do. He talked to him.
Got on him.
He told them that he can't do that. And that was the relationship he was building with the team. And then I just saw it again, which gave me chills, when they you posted the episodes of them at the combine.
Yes.
And Daboll was at the combine, and he got a call from Dexter Lawrence. It was a FaceTime call.
Thibodeau too.
And was it? Yes, and Thibodeau.
Mm-hmm.
And he made it more like it was like a relationship that I always like having with my players that he has with these guys. That they FaceTime. That he was just a normal guy. And they both are like normal guys, him and Joe Schoen. If you listen to them talk, they're not robotic. Sometimes you can get robotic as a coach. Sometimes you can say the same thing some other coach been saying. The same, everything's the same. Oh, we got to play better. It's just routine. These guys don't sound routine. They just sound like ordinary guys. This is like a guy I can just walk in the mall and see him, and just all of a sudden he'll talk to me just like if he knew me for years.
Trust me, they do. When we were in Minnesota, I was walking through the mall doing my miles, and I ran into Joe Schoen. He was just walking the mall.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the culture that they're building, which will get guys to play over their heads at times. And I think that's the good thing I like about this staff. I like about the front office. And I have to tip my hat to them. They hired 2 outstanding people, not just coaches.
Right.
They hired 2 outstanding people. And I just wanted to say that. I'll probably talk later about the combine. I'm at the draft and all that. I'm still trying to think that stuff in. But I just wanted to say that, and hopefully they hear it and let them know that, hey, they appreciate it. And,
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with them. You guys take care.
We'll talk to you again soon. 201-939-4513. We go to line 3. Tim from Charleston is next. Hello.
Hey, guys. Jonathan, it's been a while. Paul, I talked to you the other day with John.
Yeah.
I got two quick things. One, on your comment. Paul, I've heard a lot of your ideas, and, I think some are better than others, but
that's
okay. The one you had today is the most brilliant yet, but I wanted to correct one thing you said and refine the idea in a workable way, if you don't mind.
What do you got?
So there are actually a little over 40% of the states do have a state income tax. Only 9 don't. But that represents 8 NFL teams, 3 in Florida, Las Vegas, Tennessee, 2 in Texas, and Seattle.
I'm glad you've done the research for me because I didn't do that.
There you go.
Yeah. So that being said, now, of course, nobody pays – I mean, and all these players are going to be in the top rate category, right? But nobody pays a full boat on their full income. There's always write-offs and this, that, and the other thing, right? So here, my proposal would be, and Paul, you can propagate it if you like it, is to adjust the salary cap by half of the state's top income tax rate. So let's say in New Jersey, I don't know what it is, let's say it's 7%.
Right.
So the Giants would get a 3.5% credit toward their salary cap to offset that a bit. And I think that would at least give them a little wiggle room when they're negotiating with players. So players, they can offer them a little more than other teams and do that. So that's where I wanted to throw that out there. And then to comment on the draft, and Paul, you heard part of it the other day, but I've been thinking about it more. It's like I really like the idea more and more of going and taking it, assuming he's still available. We have bikers here for lunch today. Sorry if you're hearing that in the background. Taking John Michael Schmitz as a center. I feel then we've got like 80%, assuming one of the young guards works out, of our starting offensive line for the next several years. Mm-hmm. But the only problem is that's not Shane's history. And if we don't, then I'm like, it's got to be a wide receiver or a cornerback. And then whichever one of those it isn't, it's got to be the other one in the second round, I feel like. And then you end up taking a center way down lower. And there might be somebody good who could develop there, but I don't know where that leaves us this year. So I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts and comments on how you think that may all go. And thanks for the time, guys. Great show. Good to hear you guys together. I think for the first time, right?
No,
we've done many shows.
Yeah, we've done a couple.
Oh, okay. My bad. I always called the J&J show before.
No problem. Be well. We'll talk to you again. Real quick, in terms of the draft, it is very dangerous and usually mistake-laden when you start picking guys by position. That's not a good idea.
No.
You've got to go by your board. Now, when we talk about, and I've said, Jonathan, I don't think we've had this conversation since the Combine, it's obvious to me that there is the best chance for a appropriate valued corner to be a 25 for the Giants. So if I had to say what position are they going to wind up with, I think the corner right now would be what I think they will wind up with, because the value should be there at 25 for them. I could understand if they took Schmitz, if they think he's really a first-round pick. I could understand if they took him, the center from Minnesota. I could understand that. I could understand if one of the top 3 receivers should fall to 25. If they took one, I could understand that. But you can't go in prioritizing position when you make that pick. You can't do it. So his whole theory about how he's trying to figure out position by round, and all of a sudden I can't get a center, that's a backwards way to think. You can't do that. You have to go by your value board. And if your value board says that when you're up and the best guy or the best 2 or 3 guys at the top of your board is a center, you can take the center. Yep. You don't have to worry about the positional value stuff.
Yep, I agree. And that just goes into my point. Like, I just truly believe the Giants have to all around have a better roster. They have to improve.
No doubt.
And that goes right into what I'm saying. You get to that 25th pick, you're going to pick the best player available on your board, because you're not going to get the best quarterback. You don't want that. Probably stay away from running back, probably, right? There's certain positions that you're probably not going to touch. But when you look at that board and that guy comes up at 25, it might be a corner, center, linebacker, I don't know, safety possibly. Like, you're going to get that guy. Whoever's on the board, whatever the Giants need, and they think they can expect to get one in the first, second, or fourth rounds, because we got a first round pick.
The Giants have a 1, a 2, and a 3. They do. They do.
And then we're missing some rounds, right?
Well, they traded one of their thirds already to get Waller.
Which is the Kansas City one.
Yeah, they had to get Waller.
Right.
And then they've I got the whole list here. They have 10 total picks though.
But
and
some in the
10
front,
guys,
some in the back, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. But 10 guys are not making this team out of this draft.
Right,
this team's too good.
No, right, because the way they're doing free agency, they're bringing in guys right now. Like, when you bring in a guy in free agency, you're expecting them to play this year. When you draft guys past the 5th round, not to say you don't expect for them to make the team, it's just very unlikely that they will. And
especially
a lot of
when
guys
you're pretty
do.
Good.
A lot of guys do, though. A lot of guys do. I was undrafted. I ended up making the roster, never been cut, yada, 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 stuff like that. It is what it is. But the Giants, they need depth continuously, and like, they're going to continue to do that, because this is a game where people get hurt on a consistent basis, and it doesn't have any names on it. It don't have any positions on it. People just get hurt. You need people behind them.
This is what I'll say to you, Jonathan. I do think, and I'm guilty of this too, but I don't know that it's a guilt per se. I do believe you go into the offseason saying, look, these are either the holes or the thin spots on the roster. By the time you get to opening day next year, whether it's through free agency, the draft, or training camp, and even guys who get cut and then picked up from other teams, you would like to be able to fortify as many of those spots as you can. That's where the position conversation lies for me, in that context.
Right.
It doesn't lie in, got to draft a center in the first or second round. Got to draft a receiver in the first or second round. That's not the way you can look at it.
No, I don't think so either. I think you go in thinking that you have to get certain positions, but I don't think you put it on a certain round, because then that'll pencil you in, and you might lose out on a potential Pro Bowl type of player, because you're so focused in, you got narrow-sighted vision on a specific position at a specific round. I don't think you should go in at that. But what I think I've seen from the Giants, that they're flexible. I think I've seen that they're able to do that, and Joe Schoen, look, man, I think he's making all the right decisions. I think we got to square away what's going on in the interior of the offensive line, especially at the center position. Losing Feliciano and Nick Gates basically in a 2-week span.
That spot has to be fortified.
It has to be.
No one is disagreeing with that.
But you don't
fortified.
have to go in the draft saying we have to get a center at the number 25 pick overall.
No, absolutely
they shouldn't
not.
do that, and I don't think they are going to do that.
They will not.
I think they're going to figure out a way to do it. It possibly might be through the draft, possibly maybe bringing a guy in through free agency, or I know you guys were talking about the other day, you and Schmelke playing one of the guards at center. somebody that actually has experience. This is my thing, though. I think along the offensive line, people always talk about that left tackle position because that's protecting the quarterback's blind side, right? I think center is possibly either the second or most valuable position on offensive line. The center calls out a lot of calls. The center gets everybody on the same page. The center is in the middle of the offensive line. You know what defenses do when they get quarterbacks? They attack the center of the line.
He needs to be smart and astute and understand what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because he's got to worry about...
It's a very valuable position.
He's got to worry about the blitzers and the audibles.
Didn't the guy from Atlanta get $100 million? That old lineman he was a center, I believe, for the Giants. For the Falcons, he got $100 million. The center is a very valuable position.
Now,
it's a position when defensively, when we look at a team and you get a great quarterback, you know what you say? You got to make him move his feet. So what you do, you attack the A gaps. That's the center and the guards.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back 1983.
Oh, snap. 30 years ago.
No, 40. 40.
Oh, 83.
83.
Shoot, 40 years ago. I think you said 93.
My first year covering the team.
You did say 93 first.
Did I? I'm sorry. 1983. Mm-hmm. Giants had a rookie guard named Kevin Belcher out of UTEP. He was a very late round draft pick. Played guard as a rookie. Showed a lot of promise, a lot of spark. Parcells liked him. The next year, going into 84, they didn't have a center. And Belcher became their starting center. And the Giants went 9-7 and went to the playoffs. And even won a first-round game against the Rams. My point is, sometimes that guy is within the building.
Right.
And you just don't know it because they're not advertising it.
Right.
Do they think that Bredesen is the guy? Do they think that Azudu is the guy? Do they think that Lemieux is the guy? I don't know the answer to that because the Giants are not advertising what their plan is at center. I'm simply saying, if they don't pick one in the draft, it means they've got another plan. Yep. Because this administration is not foolish enough not to have a plan.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. But let's just talk about what you just did just now. Pearson, he talked about something 40 years ago, right? He don't have anything written down. Pearson, there's nothing written down.
Yeah, but
he remembered exactly who the player was, what position he played, that he was able to start. Matter of fact, you said they went 9-7. They won their playoff game against whatever team you just said. I forgot already.
They beat the Rams.
Paul, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Because
that's 40 years ago.
History does repeat itself, though. Things are cyclical. High tide and low tide. Folks, I know, the youngins like Meadow and Schmelk, they don't understand this part of it. But here's what you got to understand. Sometimes history can be the best teacher. You can learn a lot from history. And there are times when going back there can actually help you move forward today.
Okay. I like that. I like your thought process too. Not only just taking history, in perspective, but just how your thought process is of knowing Daboll and knowing Schoen. They don't really tell you what they're going to do. They don't hit what they're going to do.
No.
So them allowing, some subtractions, allowing, that basically a couple guys that possibly could play center, definitely could play guard.
They've got a plan. We just don't know what it is, but they've got one.
They do. And I don't question them either. I don't question them. But my thing is that, I think we talked about this, Schmelky, one of the last times I was on when I was with Schmelk. We're talking about I'm sitting here waiting for them to make a mistake. Did they make a mistake and let one of these guys go? You see what I'm saying? Because I don't think they're going to bat 1,000. They're going to bat 1,000?
Nobody does.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to make a mistake somewhere.
They will.
And I hope it is not the interior offensive line.
The center is not going to be a mistake. They will have that spot figured out by opening day.
They probably do, though. That's what you're kind of alluding to now. You think they might have it figured out.
They already know what they're going to do. I'm sure of it.
Yep. They got a good idea, and I like Daboll's approach to how it was week to week. Everybody talked about who's going to start this week during last season. Everybody's like, hey, who are you going to play at, guard? Who are you going to play at, right guard? Who's playing at center? Who's starting at safety? Who's playing at receiver? Who are you playing at? He was always like, we're going to see at practice. He is a big believer at what you do during the week is a good.
So was Coughlin.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. It's been a while since you've had a guy of that criteria that established culture. And that's a great culture to have. You're not just going to show up here on what you've done in the past and play. You got to show up and show what you got at practice against other guys in the building that want to take your job, that want to take that spot. And that's what he believes in. That means the best person is going to play. Don't matter how much they're getting paid. Like, when you get a contract, especially in a draft, that only guarantees you to get in the building. That's it. That don't guarantee you playing time.
No.
They would like to play their first-round draft pick and second-round draft pick and third-round draft pick. They're just not guaranteed. They're going to play the best players. The great coaches do that. The coaches that don't do that, they don't coach for very long.
You know, I think people need to understand, while we're all impatient and we all want to know what the plan is and we want to know as soon as possible, the Giants did not sign Daniel Jones to be their franchise quarterback. They did not tag Saquon Barkley to be their franchise running back. And, oh, by the way, they did not start adding offensive passing threats downfield to leave the center spot open.
Right.
They did not do that.
Yep.
Okay? They did not. It will all unfold as it unfolds. And as general managers like to say, the deal will be a deal when it's time to get done.
Yeah.
Well, we'll all know.
Yep.
We'll all know the plan when they
see.
find out who the center is.
Shane hasn't disappointed me yet. You know, we talked
That's
about
it.
Daboll and Wink and Kafka and all the guys on the team, on the whole roster, practice squad included. They did what they needed to do from August till January. They did what they needed to do. They handled business. Then as soon as the season was over, Joe Shane time. And he has not disappointed anyone yet. If you've been disappointed in what he's been doing, that means you're not a real fan. You don't understand what's actually going on.
I promise you one
He's been
thing.
making great moves, man.
Sean O'Hara will not be the center. Okay?
You heard that, Sean?
We know that. We know Sean is not going to be the center.
But that's because he's too good on TV, man.
And he's too light now. He's like
light.
1/3 of what he was before.
I love Sean O'Hara, man. He does such a great job.
Back to the phones. Dane in Florida. You're next on BBKL. Hello.
Hey, Paul and Jonathan, I love this show.
Hi, thank you.
I really, I think you guys must have read my mind, because I'm on YouTube and on Twitter, and I argue with these people about, you know, the decisions of Giants, and I tell them, listen, you're not inside. You don't have the inside story. You don't understand what's going on. I think one guy was talking about Daniel Jones, another guy was talking about the center, Ben Jones. Was like, oh, we should sign him. He's a Pro Bowler, but the guy failed a physical. Forgot to realize that he failed the physical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was, you know, you guys do a good job of, you know, understanding the inside. You know, you may not understand the inside, but you guys understand that. Listen, a fan should be just a fan. Stop being a GM. You know,
Fantasy football won't let fans be fans.
Right.
You know what, Dane?
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I've said for many and many years. Jonathan, I don't know if I've said it to you. I may have. The smartest people in the world know what they don't know.
Right. Yep.
And if you take a second
the
to think
known
about
unknowns.
take a second to think about that, and it makes an awful lot of sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe that they got Paris Campbell, they got these receivers, they got Darren Waller. They will address the center, because one thing a quarterback does not want is someone in their face.
Yep.
They can handle the outside edges, but they don't, like you said, Jonathan. They don't want something pressure right in their face, and I think they will address it.
They did not sit through weeks of negotiations with Daniel Jones and his agent to say, look, we want you here to be the franchise quarterback, but you're not going to have a center. They didn't do that.
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Trust me, it did not happen that way.
I'm intrigued about this guy Tipton, and I'll take this offline. But I like the kid A.T. Perry and Andre, the kid from Princeton. But
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, the receiver. Yeah.
Yes. I'll take that offline though. But great show, guys. I love both of you. And Jonathan, thank you for your play. You know, with the Giants. I loved you also. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Love you too, brother.
Thank you so much for your time. Real quick, if we can get one more call, we'll take him. 201-939-4513. Real quick, Tippmann is the center from Ohio State.
I don't know none of the college guys, to be honest.
I'm not going to ask you about. No, I'm not going to ask you about
Okay.
film or tape. He is 6'6". You don't usually
You were talking about him the
see
other day.
guys that tall
At that position.
playing center at that spot because it's a pad level issue, it's a leverage and balance issue. How concerned would you be? Forget the player. I'm not asking you about the player,
Yep.
but taking
The
a
stature.
6'6" center.
The concern I would have, what you just said, the ability to bend. The ability to bend and be explosive right away. These D tackles, especially when they line you right up over the center, they give the center no chance to react to them because their hands are on them ASAP. And for a guy with a frame that big, I'll be concerned about how quick can he get his hands up to counter a 340, 50-pound nose tackle, right? That would be my concern. But if he proves that he can do it, then so be it. You understand? So for me, it's not normal, but that was like, remember when Brandon Browner was playing corner for the Seattle Seahawks?
Yes.
He was 6'4", 230 pounds. And it's like, how can this guy play? And then you watch him play, he's like, oh, I understand how he plays now. If they can use him the right way, if he's utilized the right way, I'm sure the guy's going to be a good player. Maybe, I don't know.
The thing that becomes a danger sign, and I'm not saying, I'll be honest with you, I've watched his tape. I do like him. But the danger sign or the issue is he's going up against NCAA defensive tackles right now. When you go up against the bigger, more powerful, and more athletic defensive tackles, especially in the NFC East, I don't know if his success level at Ohio State is necessarily going to translate up.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing to see.
I'm not sure.
I would like to see what a 6'6" center does in the NFL. I would like that because you just don't see that. All the centers are 6'3" and under.
I'm not sure if there ever has been one.
Wow.
I don't know the
because even
answer to
guards
that.
aren't that tall.
No, not usually.
Right. Guards and centers are a little 6'4" and under kind of.
6'4".
The tackles can get 6'9". They can get big
Yes, they
outside
can.
that tackle. But it'll be interesting to see how he does in his career. I want to know. Now I'll be paying attention now.
I will research that. By the time I'm on again next week, I'll see if maybe I can figure out and find out if there have been 6'6" or taller. I don't think taller. Maybe 6'6", maybe.
You and Schmelke, you guys do a great job in looking at these college recruits, these college athletes that are coming out of college, because I'm sitting there looking like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I'm watching y'all talk about all these college guys.
It's very
I'm like,
tedious.
I'm so, like, I understand
It's
the
very
NFL.
tedious, Jonathan.
I know mostly all the guys in the NFL. I recognize a lot of guys. I just ran to Jalen Smith earlier. For me, it's like, that's cool for me. For me to dive into college football right now, I can't do it. There's no way.
It is
I'm
very
too
tedious.
busy. I got a child. I'm coaching her AAU basketball team now. I don't have time to look at college, bro. So I pay attention to the NFL, and as soon as one of y'all talk about somebody from college, I'm like, la, 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 la.
Trust me, I get massive headaches, and, I usually try to do between 120 and 150 players.
See, that's insane.
It isn't. Well, look at me.
But
you know me.
hey,
I am insane.
But that's why he's here. That's why they pay him the big bucks. That's why Schmelke get paid the big bucks.
But
You know
full
what I'm saying?
disclosure, I'm not a professional scout. I try to use my experience and what I've learned over the years to at least give myself a chance to have an informed opinion. That doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination. And I want to make it clear.
Don't discredit yourself, though, Paul. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah,
Don't
but it's
discredit
important
yourself.
to note, I will never, ever value myself as a scout does, because you know what? Those guys.
That's their job.
Oh, my God. Do they put in 25 hours a day
Yeah, but
to
you put
do
in
what
40
they
years. You put in 40 years.
It's not the same.
I get you.
It's
I
not
get
the
you.
same.
I get you.
I have very rudimentary knowledge compared to those guys. I do what I can do to try to have an informed opinion, to try to be a conduit to the fans, but I would never disrespect what every single scout does, because
Very humble.
their lives are all about the evaluation process. For me, it's a hobby. I cram over 2 months. That's not what they do.
Right.
They live
that's
it,
every day.
breathe it,
Every
eat
day.
it
I agree.
every day.
I agree.
Every day.
I agree.
The travel,
I try to
the
give
tape.
this man his flowers. He's like, no,
Well,
I'm
it's important to
I'm
know.
so modest and
No,
humble.
but Jonathan, you know why? Because you yourself said, you don't look at the tape. I want people to understand that when we talk about these guys, we're doing the best we can with what we have available to us.
Right.
But we're not,
because you're not all year long focusing on college. You do it because you know it's coming up. You know the draft coming up. You know the combine's coming up. You know senior bowl was coming up.
I get a lot of research done for the combine. Right. It's cool.
But you cramming. That's what you said. You're cramming.
I do.
There are guys that do it every single day,
366
the entire year.
That's right.
I agree with you. I hear what you're
saying.
So
I just want to put that asterisk out there. I don't think we do it enough to just say, folks, you know what? We do what we do. We try to have fun with it. We're a conduit.
But that's why I'm giving you your credit, because I know that's not your job.
I appreciate it.
I understand that. So just take the dang credit.
Okay.
Oh, good Lord.
Folks, that'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. We're here every single weekday from 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time till 1:30 to take your phone calls at 201-939-4513. Hashtag us at Giants Chat. He is at JCasillas52. I am at Giants WFAN. That'll do it for the show. You can always listen to this episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live on the archive. It's also part of the Giants platforms everywhere, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and you can go to giants.com/podcasts as well. Again, for Jonathan, I'm Paul. We'll see you next time.